done.
Yes. Good morning, students. Um, from
Good morning, sir.
from 2 days, I think you have studied what is Unix, what for it is meant, and what are the capabilities and limitations of Unix. Today, I am going to introduce you to shell scripting. That is essential shell programming. So, as we know that, so shell is an command line interpreter. So that means whatever we type in the Unix command, so it will understand and it will take the actions accordingly. So we call it as command line interpreter. And also we should know that if we look at the architecture of Unix system, so it is very much evident that shell is an agent that sits between the user and the Unix system. That means, so when you want to interact with the Unix system, so you have to interact with the shell. So that means the shell is an interface between user and the Unix system, and it understands the directives and carries them out, processes the commands issued by the user, and it's a type of shell called bone shell, corn shell, bash shell, or some other shell. So that means we have various shells like bone shell, corn shell, bash shell, and so on. So this shell processes the commands issued by the user. That means whatever the command that you submit through the command prompt, it will interpret, so what is the command, what is its meaning, what is its syntax, then accordingly it will take an action. Suppose let us assume you will type some command which is not at all available in the Unix system, then it will throw an error message. So that means it will understand, so whether you are typing a correct command or you are if you are typing something which is not available in the Unix system. So it is having the capability to interpret and execute accordingly. So what is shell programming? So it's basically a group of commands. So I think you have worked with batch files. See, in batch files, whenever we create a batch file in Windows system, usually what we do, we write one command in one line. So that means we write sequence of commands. And the moment we execute the batch file, it will execute the commands in sequence. That is one after the other in the sequence. Similarly, here the shell also, when we write a shell script, basically what we do is we'll write the list of commands one after the other. So sequentially, it will also execute the commands one at a time. And shell programming, in shell programming we use programming constructs. That is, we use control and looping structures. So that I'm going to show you with an example. And we need to understand why this shell programming is needed. So we need shell programming to execute a set of commands regularly. That means, say for example, you are going to do one task every day. So to do that task, you may have to execute more than one command. So that's a tedious process. So it is also time consuming. So you cannot keep executing all the commands one after the other regularly and every day. So that is time consuming and also which is not suggested. So instead of that, we can create a shell script. That means we can put all those commands in one file and we can store it with .sh file extension. So that means the shell scripts are stored with .sh file extension. So now what we should do to do such regular tasks is we have to combine those commands and we have to put it in one file and we have to execute that file as a script. So later I'll show you how to execute shell scripts. And another reason why we need shell programming is to have control on the sequence of commands to be executed based previous results. So that means if you have to do certain things in a proper sequence, it is always suggested to put all those commands in one file and to execute it as a script so that you will not miss with the correct sequence. Because what happens if you do not execute the commands in correct sequence, you will not get the desired output. So that is another one dependency why we have to have shell scripts and we have to so that we can execute the task in a correct sequence. Next. So what is shell script? So it's a group of commands to be executed regularly and it is stored in a file. File itself executed as a shell script or a shell program by the user. So why we call it as a shell script? See, we need to understand what is the difference between a script and a program. See, script, the meaning of script is that script is basically used to write some small programs to automate some small meaningful task. So that can be like doing some regular task or doing some administrative task, just like every admin will do, or any other meaningful work. And the compared to a program, a script is always a small piece of code and yet very much powerful. A shell program runs in interpretive mode. So that means it's basically an interpreter, hence it will run in an interpretive mode. So that means that to execute the shell program, we need not have any compiler. So just an interpreter is good enough to execute a shell script. So and also we need to understand what the difference between an interpreter and a compiler. So when we use a compiler, what happens? It will scan the complete source code at a time and it will execute. Whereas the interpreter, it will execute one line at a time. So that's why. So here the shell program can execute the commands one after the other in the sequence. Shell scripts are executed in a separate child shell process, which may or may not be same as the login shell. See, the moment when you are executing a shell script, actually the parent shell will create a subshell, which is called as a child shell, which will take care of executing all the commands. So until this child shell executes all the commands, the parent shell has to wait. So once the child shell finishes its execution, it will return the control back to the parent shell. So that's how the shell scripts will execute. So the takeaway from this is that you need to understand the moment when you are issuing a command to execute the shell script, you need to understand that it is going to create a child shell which is responsible for executing all the commands that you are listed in the shell script. Upon finishing execution, it will return control back to its parent shell. Now look at the simple example. So the name of the script is script.sh, and in the first line you can see hash followed by exclamation, so slash bin slash sh. So what is that? Actually, that is response that line helps the shell script to identify the path of the shell. So that means in this you need to understand that we are using the bash shell and the path is given in the first line. And another thing we need to know is that it is not mandatory to include that first line. So that is, you can see this is the first line. Just I'll highlight for your better understanding. So this is the line. So this can be a default line also. So this is optional. So if you want to include, you can include this line, or if you or directly you can start typing your programs. So this line represents the interpreter line, and also we call it as path of the shell. So and this in the shell script we use hash symbol to indicate the comments. So this is a comment line. So script.sh sample shell script. So echo welcome to shell programming. I think already you are introduced to echo command. So echo is one output command. So whatever you want to display, if you want to display any message, we need to embed that within the double quotes. So welcome to shell programming. Echo today's date is, so and here we are using date command. See, this is very important. We need to understand. So when you are executing the date command within the command prompt, how you'll execute? Just you'll type date and enter, it will execute. But when you want to execute as within the shell script, so and see here you are using echo command, and here so here you are using date command along with echo command. So that means here the date is part of echo command. So that's why I am using here the backquote. Okay, you can see that backquote is present in your keyboard just beside the numeric character 1. So that is, you can see it where you can also find the tail symbol. So that is the backquote. Don't confuse. Some people will confuse it with single quote. Actually, that is not a single quote. It is a backquote. So here, see what happens in case if I do not use that backquote. So it will not execute the date command. It will just simply display today's date colon date. So if you want to, since you want to execute the command date command, you have to embed that date within backquotes. So, and you can see here, so calendar. So echo this month's calendar is cal, okay, then date plus ampersand m. So what is that ampersand m? So that is month, okay, and 20, and this is the percentage. So what is that percentage y? So that is the year, so it will display 2 digits. So that is, so that it will display. So I think there is output here in the next slide. Yes, no, no, the output is not given. Okay, so see, this is a basic sample shell script which is used to display the calendar along with current date and year. So echo my shell is dollar shell. So you need to understand here. So it's an shell variable dollar shell. If you type echo dollar shell, it will display what is the name of the shell currently running in your system. Then next thing we need to understand how to run shell scripts and how to assign permissions. So before running the shell script, we need to make sure that we are assigning suitable permissions so that you can execute the shell script. Say in case if you are working as a root, that is the administrator, you need not give any permission. And say for example, so you are one of the user within in your system, and you want to make, and you are creating one shell script, and you want to give permissions for other users also to execute your shell script. If that is the case, using chmod, you can assign permissions. See here, chmod plus x. What is that x? That x means execution permission. Okay, and for who and all you are assigning? For everyone. So instead of that, what is the another alternative thing is that, so you can use absolute values. Say for example, chmod 7 7 and 7 script.sh. The meaning is that, so the first 7 is for user, and second 7 is for group, and O is for others. So 7 means all permissions, read, write, execution. We know that 4 is read, 2 is write, and 1 is execute permission. So when I say 7, 4 plus 7, so read, write, execute permissions. So if you give chmod 777 and the file name, that means you are going to give all permissions for all the 3 categories of users, that is user, group and others. Then how to then invoke the shell script name as script.sh. Okay, so actually here in our systems we need to use sh space script.sh so that we can execute the shell script. Okay, so without wasting much of the time, so I'll start with the programming part. Okay, so now I have selected some 5 6 programs. So these are the programs which I am going to use to demonstrate some of the concepts, as well as to demonstrate some of the control and looping structures used in shell programming. So, and you need to understand that these are the programs handpicked which are also asked in the campus interviews, and these are the basic programs one should know while working with Unix system. So these are the basic things one should know to work efficiently with Unix system. Okay, so first we'll take one problem. So let us assume, so you have a, so you are supposed to write a program. So the problem statement is that to the program you have to provide one directory name as the input, and what the program should do, it should search recursively within that directory, which is the file having maximum file size. That means the directory may contain several files, and also it may contain subdirectories as well. So the program has to recursively dig into that directory and to search which is the file having maximum file size. Okay, actually I have done that program. So I'll show you how the program will look like. Then I'll tell you how to start writing the program. Okay, max file size. Okay, gedit max file size dot sh. Okay, this is the program actually already have coded. Okay, So if you look at this program straight away, you will confuse. So what is this? So what they are doing in this program? Okay. So actually, the core logic of this program, if you look at this, so this one line forms the core logic of your program. So this line is responsible for locating the directory and to recursively search, okay, based on the conditions, and to extract only one field, that is which is the file having maximum file size. Now, okay, I'll close this.
This is not clear, sir, because sometimes it's not voice clear, sir.
Okay, maybe because of a network problem. Okay, is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. See here, see when we start writing the program, we need to identify what is the core logic, and straight away we cannot write that core logic into the shell script. Actually, we need to do trial and error with the command prompt. Once we get the assurance that yes, this command is working fine, then only we need to enter that command into the shell script. Okay, so now, so I have a directory dir1. Okay, so cd dir1. I'll show you the directory. Okay, ls minus l. Okay, so this is having, so there is a directory and it is having two files, f1.txt and myfile.txt. Okay, it is having two files, and if you look at the fifth column, so you can see here fifth column indicates the file size. So here the myfile.txt is the file which is having 8 bytes. So that is the maximum size. So that is what we are intended to find out. Okay, now I'll go back to the our previous directory, that is present working directory. So to know the present working directory, you can just type pwd. Okay, it will show you which is the present working directory. So now I want to, I want to write a shell script. For that I need to provide that dir1 as the input. So it will fetch, so under dir1, which is the file having the maximum file size. So now first I'll check my logic whether it is correct or not. Okay, so ls minus l capital R, okay, and dir 1. Okay, first you try this much, let us see what output you will get. Okay, so it is traversing into that dir1. So capital R means recursively, minus l means list of complete information about the file, and R means traverse recursively. So it has traversed recursively, and it has found that there are two files, f1.txt and myfile.txt. Now we need to understand that the normal files will start with minus symbol. So the first field is the permissions and it starts with minus symbol in case of a normal file. So now when I need to find out which is the normal file having maximum file size. So now by taking the output of ls command, okay, I'll use grep command, or so what I can do, so I will first, so I want to squeeze, so between the columns there are more than one blank character. Okay, I want to squeeze it. Okay, now so I'm squeezing the multiple blanks between the fields to one single blank character. So for that I am using tr minus s. Tr so is means translate, and s means, minus s means squeeze. Squeeze multiple blank characters into single blank character. Okay, after that I will combine by using the pipe symbol, cut minus d. Minus d means cut based upon the delimiter. So what to cut? Minus f5. So you can see here the field number 5 contains file size. Okay, so I want to extract field number 5. Now what is the outcome? See here, so now I am actually from by combining one command after another command, actually I am filtering what is needed. So now I am able to extract only the field number 5 of directory 1, that is 3 and 18. So from that it is evident that, okay, so now we have come to the field number 5. Now what I need to do, so already it is started. Let us assume there are so many files. In case of when there are so many files, it is better to sort. Okay. Now apply sort command. Sort -n. -n means all the lines. Okay. So now we know that after sorting, the maximum value will always sit in the bottom line because it will sort in by default. It will sort in increasing order. So now I will apply tail command. Okay. So we need to understand sort and tail are filter commands. Okay. So tail -1. So tail is the command which is used to display only the bottom ending lines of a file. So the moment when I say tail -1, so it will select only the last line. So look at it. Now it is selecting 80. So now, it is proven that this logic is working fine. Now I am going to replace this logic into my shell script. Gedit max file size dot sh. Okay, so now the same logic I have replaced, and here I have taken one extra command grep to indicate that the file should start with minus symbol. Okay, so even if I remove this, okay, so now this is what the logic you have seen. Okay, so now look at the shell script how I have written. Okay, I am starting the shell script with clear. So clear is the command which is used to clear the screen, just like how you use CLS in Windows command prompt. So in Windows command prompt it is CLS, in Linux it is clear, name of the command to clear the screen. And look at the if condition how I am using. So $hash. So what is this $hash? You may be thinking. So $hash is nothing but number of command line arguments. $hash includes, sorry, it indicates number of command line arguments. If number of command line arguments are not equal to 1, display invalid argument count and exit from the program. Okay, so to begin with the if condition, we use the keyword then finally to end the if condition we use fi. So therefore if indicates beginning and fi indicates end of the if condition. Okay, and another thing I want to convey is that through this program what I'm going to demonstrate is I'm going to demonstrate two concepts. One is how to pass command line input, that is, so how to pass command line arguments to a program. So that is one takeaway from this program, and another one takeaway is how to combine more than one command using pipe symbol. So what happens when you use pipe symbol, the output of one command will become input to another command. Say for example, if you look at this line here, just I'll highlight, look at this line. The output of ls command will become input to tr command. The output of tr command will become input to the cut command, and the output of cut command is becoming input to sort command. Similarly, the output of sort is becoming input to the tail command. So that is how we need to understand how this pipelining is working. Okay, let us start with the program flow. So say whenever you use command line arguments, the first thing that you need to use is you need to check whether you are passing exact number of command line arguments or not. So for that purpose, I am checking here if $hash means number of command line arguments are not equal to 1, then invalid count and exit. That means, so I need to pass one argument, that is the directory name. Okay, so then if say this is a not symbol, negation, so this is a negation, we call it as not, and -d indicates directory file. Okay, so now say whenever I pass command arguments to the program, I give sequence number. Say for example, first command line argument is considered as $1, second command line argument is considered as $2, third command line argument $3, and so on. And we call them as positional parameters also. So now, if the first command line argument is not a directory, okay, if whatever the command line argument you are passing, we consider it as argument 1. If the first argument is not an directory, then directory doesn't exist. Okay. Otherwise means if it is a directory and it is available, then you need to find out what is the maximum size of the file. So to store that maximum size of the file, I have taken one variable ms. Ms stands for maximum size. You can give any meaningful name, and equal to, have you note this, I have used single quote here. Just observe this. Entire command is, okay, single quoted. So sorry, it is, I have used back quote to put this entire command what I had tried with the command prompt. So ls minus lr $1. So that means we are passing dir1. So you need to understand dir1, that is a directory one that is sent as first command line argument. Then output of this lr command is becoming input to the tr minus 1. So by using ls minus lr, it has traversed into dir1 and it has displayed all the file properties, and now we are squeezing multiple blank characters between the fields to single blank characters. So tr minus s means squeeze. You need to understand, tr minus s means squeeze multiple blank characters into single blank character. So after squeezing, then it becomes very easy for us. So now the fields are differentiated with single spaces. Now cut based on the delimiter. Mainstream is delimiter, blank, that is blank character, field number 5. So why we need to cut field number 5? Because that contains file size. Okay. So after cutting that only field number 5, you sort the output. Okay. So when we sort, it will sort in increasing order, so that the highest value will be the last line. So by using the another tail command, okay, you select only the last line, because the maximum value will be stored in the last line, that is tail minus 1. So echo maximum file size is $ms. Okay. So to display the value of the variable, we need to include dollar symbol. So that is one thing we need to understand. Okay. If I put only ms, it will display as ms only. To display the value of ms, okay, I use dollar symbol. So now, so in my example, the maximum file size is 18 bytes. So 18 will be stored to variable ms. So ultimately, by using the echo command, we are displaying the maximum file size is 18. Okay, now let us see how to execute this program, and let us see how to pass command line arguments. Now, sh to run this shell script, max file size dot sh and dir1. You need to understand this dir1 is nothing but command line argument. Okay, I am passing one command line argument, that is dir1. So the max file is 18. Okay, so now what is the proof? So is correct. Just you type ls minus lr dir1. You can cross check. Yes. So inside dir, you look at field number. Okay. So it is file number. Okay. It is 18 is the maximum files, and we found that is correct also. So through this example, we came to house command line arguments. Okay. Now this dir1 is called as a command line input. Okay. Next, we'll see one more program. Case conversion. Okay. gedit case conversion.sh. So this is a program where once again we are passing the input using command line arguments. So for this program, we need to pass file names as input to the program, and it has to convert all the lowercase characters of the file name into uppercase character. Say for example, your file name is so myfile.txt. So all the characters of the file name are, let us assume, are in lowercase. So upon executing this script, it has to convert all that file name into myfile.txt into uppercase. So that is the problem statement. That is the problem statement is to convert name of the files from lowercase to uppercase character. Okay. And how we are passing input to the program is by using once again command line arguments. Okay. So first we need to do the validation. Whenever you use command line arguments, very first thing that you need to do is validation. Now, okay, so clear means clear the screen. If once again $hash, if number of command line arguments are equal to 0, that means you are not at all passing any arguments. Just you are typing sh filename.sh. Okay, if that is the thing, okay, so exit from the program. Okay, or if you want, you can put one message here, echo invalid input. Okay, so because the file requires at least one command line argument, because we have to pass file name so that it can convert lowercase into uppercase. That is the file name. Name of the file name has to be converted from lowercase to uppercase. So in case if since see if in case if you are not passing any parameter, it has to show invalid input and it has to exit. Okay, now look at this. Okay, how to implement for loop in shell script. Okay, see here, for and in are keywords. For and here fname, that is file name. Okay, that is the iteration variable. Like say when you write for loop, you will write for equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. Now what is I? That is called as an iteration variable. So in this here also, fname is called as iteration variable. Okay, fname is iteration variable. Then what is this fat? So $at is nothing but the command line arguments that you pass that are stored in $at and will be taken one at a time. Okay, whatever the command line arguments they are going to pass as input will be array, that is $at, and each value will be considered as separate string. Hence we are using quotes. We are embedding $at with double quotes. The meaning is that treat each command line argument as separate string. Okay, it will treat each command line argument separate string, and all the strings will be stored in $at. Okay, if -f means normal file. Okay, say for example, okay, so first I'll run the program and I'll show you how it will work. Then you will have better understanding. Okay, sh case conversion.sh f1 f2. So look at here. So I'm executing this script and I am passing name of the script is case conversion.sh and I am passing two command line arguments f1 and f2. What are these f1 and f2? You can see here f1 and f2 are the normal files which are existing in present working directory. Now what is the expected outcome? The expected outcome is that f1 and f2 should be converted from lowercase to uppercase. Okay, let us see what happens. Yes, you can see here now small one is converted to capital F1 and small f2 is converted to capital F2. That is, it is successful in converting name of the file to file from uppercase to from lowercase to uppercase. Okay, now we'll go back to the program. See, so now let us assume for fname, that is iteration variable in $at. So now $at is an array which stores all the command arguments, but since we have embedded it in double quotes, it will treat each argument is one string, and each string is separate command argument. If minus f okay, so now in the first iteration, let us assume we are passing two command line arguments f1 and f2. So in the iteration, so we are checking whether f1 exists. Okay, whether the file exists. If the file exists, it will come to the true part, that is echo file name, then tr is to conversion. So translate, okay, within single quote I am writing small a to z. So we need to understand this is a regular expression. Okay, so this is the regular expression. I am embedding that regular expression within single quote. That means consider all the alphabets ranging from small a to small z. Okay, translate these alphabets into capital case letters, that is ranging from capital A to capital Z. Okay, so the meaning of this command is translate all the all the lowercase characters, that is lowercase alphabets, to uppercase alphabets. Okay, and what is the input of this? From where the input is coming to this tr? It is coming from the left side, because since we are using the pipe symbol here, so this $f name, that is nothing but f1, will be treated as input to tr command. So hence f1 is converted from lowercase to uppercase. Okay, now the first iteration is over. Next, it will go back to the second iteration. So in the second iteration, f name is replaced with f2. So f2 is the second command line argument that we are passing. Once again, it will check if file f2 exists, that is come to the true part. Okay, f2, okay, pass f2 as input to the tr command and convert all lowercase alphabets to uppercase alphabets. Okay, in case if f2 is not found, okay, come to the else part of the if condition and print file not found. So like that, this loop will repeat, okay, n number of times based upon how many command line arguments you are passing. Okay, okay, now I'll pass 3 arguments to that. Okay, f1, f2 and new file. Okay, so to the same script I'm passing 3 command line arguments. You can pass any number of arguments. Okay, I'll pass one more. Okay, so f1 is the first command line argument, f2 is the second command line argument, f3 is the third, and sorry, new file is the third argument, and words is the fourth argument. Now all these things will be stored in $at. So what is $at? I told it's an where it stores each parameter in this line as a separate string. Okay, now f1 is one string, f2 is one string, new file is one string, and words is another string. Okay, now look at the outcome. So each of the file name is converted into uppercase. Okay, now we'll see one more program. Okay, so before that, okay, let us understand what is the takeaway from this program. See, the takeaway from this program is that through this program we came to know how we can use command line arguments and how to store all the command line arguments into an array format. Okay, so by using the for loop, see here we are using $at, which actually represents all the command line arguments as individual strings. Okay, and another concept is the application of tr command. See, in the previous example I had used tr command to squeeze multiple blank characters into single blank character, whereas in this example I am using the same tr command to convert all the lowercase alphabets to uppercase alphabets. Okay, so that is the takeaway from this program. Now let us move forward to the next program. Okay, next program is gedit file properties .sh. So through this program I am going to demonstrate how to accept input from the keyboard. In the past 2 programs I was using command line input, whereas in this program I am going to demonstrate how to read input from the keyboard. Okay, so the aim of the program is that, so you need to pass one file name as into the program, and it will display all the properties of the particular file. Okay, clear? Echo enter file name, read file name. So read is nothing but just it will work similar to the scanf. Okay, so I think you all know C programming. I assume you all know C programming. So in that C programming we use scanf. Scanf is used to read from this in the variable. So here I use one variable f name to store the file name. Okay, so it will ask the user to enter the file name, and upon the user entering the file name, it will be stored in the variable f name. Then we are doing the validation. If minus f means file exists. If that file exists, then okay, then what to calculate file permissions. Okay, so as we know that the first field of the ls command is nothing but the permissions, file permissions. So therefore use ls minus l dollar file name. Then to extract the field one, we use cut command based on the delimiter blank character, cut only field one. That is minus f1 means cut field one, minus f2 means cut field number two. Okay, so I'm cutting field number one and storing it in the variable permissions. Now permissions is a variable which will store all file permissions. Later we can display that by using dollar permissions. You can see here how I am printing the permissions. Echo minus c, file permissions are dollar permissions. Okay, so you may be thinking why I'm using this echo minus c. Okay, I am using echo minus c because here I am using the new line character, that is slash. So if you want to use slash, so many shells, C concha and so on. So in that case you have to use minus c option, echo with minus c option. The dollar permission. Now similarly, how to extract number of file? If you know the okay, better I show the example. ls minus f. Okay, look here. Observe this line. Last field is file permission, and now what are the number? Okay, how many links the file is having? Okay, so now it is showing now ln f1. So I am creating new link to the file. Okay, by using file exists. Okay, so that means I am creating a new link to the existing file f1. So using command. Okay, now let's check here ls minus l f1. So now look at here. In the second it is showing 2. What is this? What is this 2? It is denoting that the number of links to the file f1 is 2 number. Okay, that means you can invoke that file with the name f1 or new f1. Okay, now go back to the script. Okay, now let us see. So how to extract that? Links is equal to ls minus l dollar f. Then to extract the second field, cut minus d, that is based upon the delimiter blank character minus f2. Minus f2 means extract field number 2 and store the result in the variable links. Then echo number of links are dollar links. Similarly, to extract the file size, I have a temporary variable f size is equal to ls minus l dollar file name, cut once again based on the delimiter blank character minus fi. Okay, thinking what is this delimiter? So delimiter is nothing but criteria. What is the criteria to cut? So the criteria to cut is blank character. The fields are separated with blank character. Okay, so cut minus F5 means field number 5, which is nothing but file size. Like that, similarly, you can you can extract owner of the file, okay, group owner of the file, name of the file, sorry, yeah, name of the file, and so on. Okay, this is one application. Okay, so through this program I am going to demonstrate how to read input from the keyboard by using read. Okay, now let us execute this program. Sh file properties.sh. Okay, so enter file name. It is asking me to enter the file name, so I'll enter f1. Okay, f1 is one existing file name. So it is showing that file permissions are minus RW. That means no permission for user, for group read permission, for others. So sorry, for user there are only read and write permission. For group users there is only read permission. For others there is only read permission. That means read and write permission is available only to the owner of the file. Read and write permission. For group users and others there is only read permission. And the number of links to the file are 2 in number. And the file size is 50 bytes. Okay, so after this you will see one more program, that is how to deal with expressions in shell programming. Okay, how to deal with expressions in shell programming. For that I have a program, gedit expression demo.sh. Okay, see, look at this file. See, okay, first I'll tell you what is the aim of this program. See, the aim of this program is that within the current working directory you need to find out which are all the files having at least 5 characters as their file name. Okay, so you can give any name. Okay, so f1, f2, my file, file1.txt, program1.sh, something like that you will be giving. So the problem statement here is that now we need to display all the file names whose file name is at least 5 characters. Okay, so now let us start with the program flow. See here, so first, see how you will come to know how many files are having more than 5 characters. First we need to see the output of ls, isn't it? So now, so here I have a ls command. It will display a list of all the files and directories, and I will store that output in a file, that is new file. Okay, I'll create a new file by name new file, and I'm going to store the output of ls command. Okay, it contains list of files and directories present in the current working directory. Now for fname in cat new file. So what is cat new file? What it contains? Okay, let us see. Cat new file. Okay, so look at here. This is the outcome of new file. So what it contains? It contains names of all the files and directories present in the current working directory. Okay, now go back. Okay, so now what I need to do? Now I need to take one file name at a time, and I need to check whether it is having at least 5 characters or not. Okay, so now by using the for loop, I'll take contents of that new file one at a time. Okay, and I'll check whether it is having minimum 5 characters or not. Okay, so do indicates the beginning of the for loop. Okay, so here I am going to check what is the length of the file name. Okay, so this is in the first iteration it is taking file 1. Okay, count is equal to expr. So expr is the command and length is the keyword. Okay, and so whatever you want to check, you have to embed it within double quotes. Okay, see here, since I am going to find out the length of the file, okay, I'll use count is equal to, count is a temporary variable, you can give any meaningful name. Expr is the command, length is the keyword, okay, used to find the length of this file. Okay, and the length of that file will be stored in count. Okay, now if value of that count is greater than or equal to 5, then echo file name. That means we are going to display only those names which are having minimum 5 characters. Okay, now one iteration is over. Go to second iteration. Now within this cat new file, it will take second file. Okay, see, as we know that cat new file means it contains list of files. So now we need to take one at a time. In the second iteration, it will take second file and it will check the length of the second file in terms of characters. Okay, so what is its length, and that's output will be stored in variable count. Then check whether that value is greater than or equal to 5. If it is greater than or equal to 5, display the name, or else just ignore it and go to the next iteration. And this loop will be repeated depending upon, this loop will be repeated n number of times based upon how many files are there in that new file. Okay. Now let us see the output of that program. sh expr demo.sh. Okay, so now this is output. See here, demo file greater than 5 characters, desktop greater than 5 characters. You take any file, so it is displaying only those files that are greater than 5 characters. You take any file name, it is greater than 5 characters. Now you look at the actual output of ls. You can see we have so many files, f1, f2, ff. There are so many files which are less than 5 characters. It is not displaying. Okay, okay, that is another example. Okay, now, okay, we'll take another example. Date command. Okay, see, look at this output of date. Sorry, the calendar command. See, in this example, it is displaying the June 2020 calendar. And if you look at the dates, so the range is from 1 to 30 for June. So normally for any month, the date ranges are 1 to 31. And here one thing we need to understand. See, when I say date, actually it is either single character or double character, because the range is 1 to 31. And how the computer will interpret? The Unix system will interpret it as two characters. The date means two characters. So if it is 1, it is blank character followed by 1. If it is 2, blank character followed by 2. If it is 12, obviously two character, 1 and 2. So like that it will interpret. So this is a funda we need to understand how the date will be interpreted by Unix system. So if it is, if the date is less than 10, okay, it will be treated as blank character followed by the number. Gedit date replace.sh. Okay, see the first line. See, this is the optional line. This line is helpful for the shell command to fetch the path of the shell. So this line will help the shell script to fetch the path of the shell, and this is optional. If you want, you can use, or just you can ignore that line. Okay, so now we need to display the calendar. The aim of the program is you need to display the calendar. Say for example, if the date is 5, so it has to be replaced with single star. If the date is 25 or 12 or 13, that is, if it is two characters, it has to replace with 2 stars. Okay, like this. Okay, so now we need to extract what is today's date. Okay, to extract today's date, as we know, date plus percentage e. Date plus percentage e will display today's date, and I want to store that result into a variable called day. Okay, so now I am extracting today's date and I am storing it in the variable day. If the value of day is less than 10, then cal command. Okay, so take the cal command, so it will display the calendar. Then use the pipe symbol, Okay, use the pipe symbol. Then I'm using the stream editor. That is sed command. Sed command is called as a stream editor. Okay, sed. Yes means substitute here. Yes means substitute. What to substitute? Forward slash. So what to substitute? This is the criteria. Okay, so substitute day with star. So before day, you can observe here there is a blank character before day. Okay, if the date is blank followed by the number, then you replace it with blank character followed by single star. Okay, if the date is greater than or equal to 10, then replace the date with double star. Okay, so I'll show you with example. sh date replace dot sh. Let us see. See, today's date is, it is showing 17, so 17 is replaced with double star. In case, say for example, in case if today's date is 3, it has to replace 3 with single star, because 3 is single digit, so it has to replace 3 with single star. Now I'll show you how to cross check whether it is also applicable for single digit values or not. Okay, go to system administration, date and time. Once again, I'll show you how to update the date. Go to system administration, date and time. So here we'll change the date. Okay, let us assume I'll select today's date as, I'll reset today's date to 2. Okay, now what should be the outcome of our program? The 2 should be replaced with single star, not instead of double star. Okay, see, earlier the date was 17, it was replacing with double star, and see, now I am replacing it with new date. Let us see how it will work. Okay, now I have updated the date to June 2nd, and it is been replaced with single star. Okay, so through this program you need to understand how the calendar command can be combined with sed command to replace the dates. Okay, say for example in your in your interviews, in any of your interviews, if they ask, so how you can change the date of a calendar? Okay, so what is your idea? What are the commands that you can use? Okay, so obviously you can say, so to deal with calendar, I have to use calendar, and to replace the date I may use sed command. Okay, and the option is yes. Yes is substitute. Okay, so the sed command contains 3 parts. Okay, one is the option is the yes is the option, and the replace criteria. So this is a replace criteria, and this one is what to replace. Okay, so replace, okay, blank character followed by value with blank character followed by star, and here replace the date with double star. Okay, any doubt in this? Hello, can you hear me? Any doubt in this, Amit?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, now I'll see the last program. Okay. Okay. So before that, I'll tell you the problem statement. Okay. So now let us assume I have 2 files. Okay, I'll show you the files. Okay. So cat words. Okay. So cat words contains, okay, only the words hello, good, and morning. It contains 3 words. Okay, then cat. demo file. Okay, so this demo file contains hello, good morning, hello, good afternoon, hello, good evening, and good night. So that means it contains 4 lines. Now, what is the problem statement is, so now I have to take this words file. Okay, from this file, I have to take one word at a time, that is hello, and I need to check how many times that is present in demo file. Okay, say for example, hello is present 3 times in demo file, and good is present 3 times in demo file, and morning is present only 1 time in demo file. So this is a problem statement. Okay, so from one file I have to take one word at a time, and in another file I need to check the number of occurrences of that particular word. Okay, now I am going to show you one program which will do this task. Okay, so for this purpose I'll, okay, so I'll give the output like this: sh demo file dot sh. Okay, and command line arguments are 2 files: words, that is the first argument, to take one word at a time, then to search in demo file. Okay, demo file consists the actual content, so I need to find the number of occurrences of each word in demo file. Okay, sh word occurrences, word occurrence dot sh, words and demo file. Okay, okay, look at this output. So output will look like this: count hello in demo file 3 times, count good in demo file 4 times, count morning in demo file 1 time. Now how to write a program to achieve this? Okay, let us see. Gedit word occurrence dot sh. Okay, since the available time is very less, I cannot type the source code, so hence I have already written the file and I am showing it to you. Okay, so for this program we assume command line arguments, so hence, so minimum 2 parameters we need to pass. So first do the validation. If the number of command line arguments are less than 2, invalid input and exit. So that is the validation part. So we are checking whether we are passing right number of command line arguments or not. Okay, see, observe this program very carefully and see, okay, how neatly I have written the source code. Okay, how neatly I have formatted, so that you can debug it easily. See, whenever we write any program, the way we write the programs is very important. Why? Because if you say, for example, if you start writing everything starting from the column number 1, okay, well, the very first thing is you cannot trace the output. Second thing, it becomes very difficult to debug the errors. So we have to document very neatly. And through this program, I am going to show you one more concept, that is nested for loops. How to use nested for loops. Say for example, so in case of bubble sort, in C programming, you are using 2 loops. So I loop and J loop. So J loop was coming inside the I loop. So how you are using? Similarly, such scenario, how to deal with such scenarios? This is the example. So here I am implementing 2 for loops, that is nested for loops, and also one conditional statement, that is if condition. Let us see how to implement it. So now we know what is the aim of our program. So I have 2 file names, argument1 and argument2. From argument1, I need to take one word at a time, and I need to check how many times it is present in argument2. Okay, now for word in cat $1. Okay, cat $1 is contents of words file. Okay, so first word is hello. Okay, let us assume first word is hello. Now word is replaced with hello in the first iteration. Then for file in $. So this is new thing for you. Need to understand dollar star means it is an implicit array. Dollar star is implicit array. The meaning of implicit array is that the array is already present. You need not create it. Okay. So now you are entering two arguments, words and demo file. So what is first argument? Demo file is second argument. So those are stored in the array dollar star. Now dollar star is an implicit array which contains two arguments, words and demo file, and that is stored in dollar star. Like that you need to interpret. If the value of dollar file is not equal to dollar one, okay. So that is, what is dollar one? The first word, okay, that is hello, and this is the argument. Okay, if both are not equal, then count word in, so how many times it is present. Okay, so dollar word is hello in, okay, demo file, hello in demo file. Okay, echo grep IOW. So this option we need to understand. So grep is an pattern matching command, and why we are using IOW? I means ignore case, only means, so minus one means only match. Okay, exact match. Okay, O is used for exact match, and W is word match. Okay, W indicates word match. Okay, so that means exactly we are searching for the word hello, okay, in the file demo file. Then take that complete line and count. Okay, it will display only the words, how many times. Say for example, if it is present three times, so okay, I'll show this output in the command line. Okay, so okay, let us see how this command. See, before putting this grep command into this shell script, let us see whether it will work or not. Just will cross check in the command line. Grep minus IOW, okay, word hello in demo file, demo file. Okay, see what is the outcome? It is displaying hello three times. Okay, now what happens if I combine that with pipe symbol, and if I put word count command, minus W means count only the words. Okay, the outcome is 3. So now we are intended to extract only the count. Okay, so now I think now you got why we are using this grep command. Okay, now this grep command will check for the pattern hello in the file demo file, and since it is having 3 occurrence, it will display 3 times hello, hello and hello, and we want to extract the count using word count command, that is WC minus W means word count. So the outcome is 3 will be displayed. Okay, and next word is in the same file, the next word is, okay, so here, so how many files we have? Only one file. So this loop will close. Once again it will go back to the upper loop, so upper for loop. So now it will take the second word is good. Okay, so for file in dollar star, okay, it will check the condition if the file name, okay, so the first file name and the dollar one both are same. Okay, so it will just come out of the if condition, and it will go to the next iteration. Okay, and if the condition is passed, then it will check so how many times the good is present in demo file. So once again, as we know that it is present multiple times, so it will check for the word good, and once again it will, by using the word count command, it will display so how many times it is present. Similarly, so by picking one word at a time, it will check the entire file. Okay, so see the first see how many times this word file will execute. Say for example, it is having 3 lines, so it will execute 3 times. Okay. Similarly, so how many times this second for loop executes depending upon how many arguments you are passing. Okay, I want to search in only one file, so that means it will execute only once. If you are intended in searching for searching in 3 files for the same word, so this will second for loop will execute 3 times to search for the same word. Okay, now come back to the output. Let us check the output. Sh word occurrences dot sh words and demo file. Okay, that means the word hello is existing 3 times in the demo file, and the word good is existing 4 times in the demo file, and the word morning is existing only 1 time in demo file. Okay, that's the meaning. Okay, so that's all from shell script. Okay, you want to ask anything? Hello students, you want to ask anything?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, how to log the sir terminals? I have questions in my mind.
How to lock the terminal? Yes, STTY echo and STTY minus echo. See, by default, the terminal will be whatever you type, you can see. And if you type STTY minus echo, you cannot see. Look at here, I will show you. STTY, okay. STTY echo means, okay. So STTY echo means whatever you type, you can see. Terminal is not locked. But if you type STTY minus echo, now you see what happens. Okay, now I am typing something, but you are not able to read it, isn't it? Okay, so now see here, command not found. Okay, now I'll type something which is not a command. I'll hit the enter, it will show bash command not found. So to overcome this, now how to unlock the terminal? STTY echo space echo. Okay, so now I am typing. Okay, now you can see what I am typing. Now you can see. So like that you can lock the terminal and you can unlock the terminal. Yes, Amit.
Yes, sir. How to unlock the terminal, sir? Once again.
Unlock the terminal STTY echo.
Okay.
To lock the terminal STTY minus echo. To lock the terminal STTY minus echo. To unlock the terminal STTY echo. Got
Yes,
it?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and there is one more. STTY sane. STTY space SAN is sane. So it will
Mm.
like factory reset. It is similar to factory reset in your mobile phone. Okay, you have so many shortcut commands. If you have overridden any meaning of the any of the shortcut command, it will reset. STTY sane. Okay, like this. STTY sane. Factory reset of all the shortcuts. So we know that control C means kill the command, control D means stop keyboard input, like that. We have so many things. And also we can change them also. If you have changed anything and if you want to restore, you can type STTY space sane. That is STTY sane. Okay, now I'll show you one more thing. Say for example, so you want to host your applications. So where you are going to host the application, and if you are going to use the database, how to use the database. Shall I show that simple demo?
I
How to use the MySQL and how to use Apache Tomcat?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very
Okay,
important.
yeah, I'll show you how to use Apache Tomcat and MySQL. Yeah. So look at here. So go to system, administration, then services. Go to system administration, then services. See, Apache Tomcat is available as a service with the name HTTPD. In Linux, we call it as HTTPD. Okay, search where is that HTTPD? Yes, here it is. Put the Okay, select it, and so here you can observe before selecting. Okay, it
Sir,
was
can you
not
repeat my
enabled.
steps, sir?
Steps are,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'll repeat the steps. Go to system, administration,
Okay, sir.
and services.
Yeah.
Yeah, under that, select HTTPD and enable it. Okay, then you can
Yes,
see
sir.
the start button here. Click on start button. Start. Okay, HTTPD start successful. Okay, see here, I am working as a root, so it is not asking any password for me. In case if you are a normal user, if you want to enable the service, you want root password. It will ask you to enter the root password, and you need to enter it. Okay, now close it. Okay, so okay, now come to the command prompt. Okay, and so open the browser. Okay, how to open the browser? There is a command Firefox. Okay, there is a command called Firefox. Type Firefox and hit enter. Okay, now the browser is opened. So now type http colon double slash local host. Okay, you can see the Apache Tomcat file. Okay, this is the home page of Apache Tomcat, isn't it? So this is the indication that you have correctly configured the Apache Tomcat. Okay. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. So this is how you can configure the Apache Tomcat. Okay. Now how to stop the service of Apache? I'll show you. Service HTTPD start. Okay. HTTPD start means to start the service of Apache, and to stop the service of Apache HTTP service HTTPD stop. Okay, stopping HTTPD. Can you observe the screen? The output stopping HTTPD. Okay. Next thing I will show you how to where to save the files. Okay. Say for example you have a PHP file or a Perl file. So where to store? Go to file system. Okay. Are you following? Can you use your Linux system now?
No, sir. 1, 2, sir.
Okay. Okay. Anyhow, the video is available. Later you can follow. So go to the
Yes.
file system. Where? Under where? Select www. So see where is that www? Yes, here it is. So file system where? Under that www. Under that www. Select CGI bin. Okay. Here it is CGI bin. Okay. Here you need to save your Perl files, Java files, and PHP files. Got it? Where to store? Under CGI bin. Okay. Then where to store your HTMLs? So under www there is a folder called HTML. Here you can store the HTML files. Okay. So this is how you can host your applications. Okay. And the last demonstration is on MySQL. Okay. Now I'll show you how to actually MySQL by default is available with Linux. Okay. In Linux operating system, MySQL is by default available. So I'll show you how to enable the MySQL database. So not the browser. So go to system, then administration, services. Once again go to services, then name of the service is MySQLD. Name of the database service is MySQLD. Check where it is. So here it is, MySQLD. Okay. Click on MySQLD, then select Start. Okay. MySQLD start successful. Okay. Close it. Okay. Now come to command prompt. Once again, to start the service of the MySQL service MySQLD start. Okay, starting MySQL. Okay, service MySQLD start. Okay, then next to go to the MySQL, type MySQL. Okay, you can see the prompt. Now you are in MySQL. Now you can create a database. Create database. Okay, new DB. Okay, name of the database is new DB. Okay, so query, okay, one row affected, that is database is created. Now to use that database, use name of the database, use new DB. Okay, database changed. Okay, now you can start creating the table. Create table employee name varchar of 15 comma age number of okay, it is showing okay some syntax in the query. Okay, so I think it is not supporting number. Okay, so I'll give integer. Yes. Okay, so now table is created. So this is how you can create tables using MySQL. Okay, so MySQL is available as a service in Linux platform. Just you need to go to the services and enable the service, and don't forget to use the service command to start the service of MySQL and to stop it. That is service MySQLD start and service MySQLD stop. Now exit. Okay, now to stop the MySQL server, service MySQLD stop. Okay, yeah, it will take few seconds and it will stop. Stopping MySQL. Okay, so that's it. We are done with the demo of MySQL and Apache Tomcat. So it is very important for you people to understand where to put your files, especially when you are hosting your application in Linux platform. Okay, so it is file system where www under that CGI bin, where you can store your server side files. You can store server side files in CGI bin, and to store the HTML files, file system where www under that HTML folder. Okay, HTML folder is one place where you can store the HTML files. And very important thing that you need to understand is by default in CGI bin you cannot create any file. You have to have the root permission. So you have to give permission to create the files. Then only you can create files in CGI bin. Okay, anything you want to ask? Students, anything you want to ask?
No, sir.
Okay, any doubt?
But sir, another topic.
Another topic?
Yes, sir. I am two times try sending a mail through Unix, but not got it, sir.
Repeat once again. Your
Yes, sir. How to send the sir mail, sir, through the Unix?
mailx command.
Yes, mailx.
Yeah, mailx.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so here, so in the Linux, I need to do some configuration. Otherwise, I would have shown. Okay, I'll show you the syntax. Mailx. Okay, and topic hi. Okay, to whom? Okay, this is a only one mail I want to send. Say for example, amit@bmsit.in. Okay, like this you can type and you can send. Okay,
But sir,
so I'll send you
but
the.
sir, not working.
You can refer the syntax of mailx, and you can. There are so many internal commands available.
Okay, sir.
Hmm? Okay, like this you can compose and you can send. Okay, yeah.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. ಸರ್ ಮುಗೀತು.
ಒಂದು ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಮನೀಶ್ ಹಂಗೆ ಲೈನಲ್ಲಿ ರೀ, ಒಂದು ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಹಂಗೆ. ವೆಂಕಟೇಶ್ ಅಸೈನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಡಿಮ್ಮ.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಅಸೈನ್ಮೆಂಟು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಇದು ಆಮೇಲೆ ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ಪಲ್ಲಿ ಕಳ್ಸೋದಾ?
ಅಲ್ಲ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಕಳ್ಸಿದ್ರೆ ಆಯ್ತು, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಗ್ರೂಪಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ, ಗ್ರೂಪಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿ.
ಗ್ರೂಪಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕ್ತೀನಿ. ಓಕೆ
ಓಕೆ ಓಕೆ ಓಕೆ ಓಕೆ ಫೈನ್.
ಸೊ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಸೆಂಡ್ ದ ಅಸೈನ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಥ್ರೂ ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್.
ಹೇಳಿ.
Okay, sir.
ಸರ್ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸಿಟ್.
ಎಸ್, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಕಿಡ್ಸ್, ವಿಲ್ ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಟುಮಾರೋ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
ಓಕೆ, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಎವ್ರಿವನ್.
Thank you, sir.
ಹೇಳಿ ಹೇಳಿ. ಇಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ, ದುಡ್ಡಿದ್ರೆ ಬೇಡ, ಖಂಡಿತ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಲೂಪಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅನುಮಾನ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ನಾವು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಬರ್ತೀವಿ. ಅಷ್ಟೇ ತೊಂದರೆ.